अर्चित अर्चित आज नहीं आएंगे अर्चित साहब, पता है क्यों? क्योंकि मैंने दे दिया इनको छुट्टी। बहुत ज़्यादा बोलता है लड़का, मतलब सुनता नहीं है। और ऐसे भी आज पीपल हैव मेंशन्ड कि कुरुश के एपिसोड में देयर वाज फर्स्ट टाइम जहाँ पे कुरुश ने ज़्यादा बोला है सदफ से। तो अगर कुरुश बोल रहे हैं और मैं बोल रहा हूँ तो फिर अच्छी से क्या काम है अपने को, है कि नहीं? तो छुट्टी, बाहर रास्ता दिखा दिया गया है। अब तो देखते हैं, अगर if you want Archit back, then go on change.org and start a petition or tweet us and say bring Archit back, तभी अर्चित वापस आएगा, अदरवाइज नहीं आने वाला है। खैर, उनके एब्सेंस में भाई साहब नादारद हैं, तो आज बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग सी कॉन्वर्सेशन करेंगे हम। स्वीट स्वीट सी कॉन्वर्सेशन वाली है। इस एपिसोड के बाद अगर आपको बहुत ज़ोर सी भूख लगे, जो कि इन जनरल भी लगती है मेरे ख्याल से, तो उसके ज़िम्मेदार आप खुद हैं, मैं नहीं, टू बिगिन विद। और मिठाई की क्रेविंग होए तो भी आप खुद जिम्मेदार हैं। तो एक काम करें, फटाफट जिस भी शहर में रहते हो, धड़ाधड़ अग्रवाल, हल्दीराम, बीकानेर, जो भी आसपास चलता है, या मिठास विठास टाइप का, फटाफट मंगा लो अपने हिसाब से। और एक काम करना, मेरे पास भेज देना। खैर, वी हैव गॉट राजश्री सेन। वेलकम राजश्री ऑन आवर
Hello.
पॉडकास्ट। तो लंबी राजश्री का हम इंट्रोडक्शन दे देते हैं पहले, कि सब
Mm.
जानते हैं ऑलमोस्ट। टू बिगिन विथ, Rajyasree works with Hyatt India, an acclaimed columnist with Economic Times, and also she works with Newslaundry. Formerly, formerly, फंबल करता हूँ, अपनी इंग्लिश बहुत कमज़ोर है क्लियरली। खैर, formerly communication advisor with Facebook and have been columnist with Scoop Whoop News as well. और भी बथेरे हैं, मिंट है, फर्स्ट पोस्ट है, वॉल स्ट्रीट जर्नल है। बेसिकली वी हैव गॉट अ रियली पढ़ा लिखा इंसान, ऐसा नहीं हम किसी को भी लेकर नहीं आते हैं। शी ऑल्सो हैड अ फूड वेंचर कॉल्ड ब्राउन साहेब, तो हम ब्राउन साहेब के बारे में बात करेंगे। एंड recently she's come up with a book called The Sweet Kitchen. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you are also going to see this book. If not, then आप सुन रहे हो, or we will put this book in the show note as well. So go ahead and buy this book. This book is about history of food. You'll find recipes of many recipes. नहीं, recipes
Oh,
of many
true.
food.
Ah,
हाँ, ये फंबल हो गया, कोई बात नहीं। खैर, so on that nice note, Rajyasree, welcome to Naan Curry podcast.
thank you very much. Thank you.
पहले तो मतलब छूटते ही यही एक सवाल है कि अच्छा, बाकी लोग के लिए मैंने राजश्री को इसलिए बुलाया ना, क्योंकि फटाफट देखो, शी वर्क्स विद हयात, तो या तो पॉडकास्ट के एंड होते होते या तो हयात में एक रूम मिल जाएगा या फिर हयात कंपनी में नौकरी मिल जाएगी, ठीक है? इनमें से कुछ एक होने वाला है। लेट्स सी व्हाट हैपेंस। ओके राजश्री, economics, all these other serious stuff, so to speak, right?
Hmm.
To worldly things, to
Ah.
food. Uh, Brown Sahib, then writing a food history or story book. Uh,
Hmm.
ये कैसे आया?
So I've always written on food, as in I was Wall Street Journal's food columnist for
Yeah,
3 years,
correct.
and I actually never cooked till I was 23. So when I left Calcutta and I went to Bombay to study in Sophia, and then when I stayed on my own, that's when I cooked out of, like, I had to, or I'd starve or I'd get bankrupt. No? And in Bombay, you couldn't really at that time be hiring people to cook for you. But in our home, we are big lovers of food and of trying different cuisines. So I've grown up in a home where my grandmother used to work. Uh, she used to do a lot of social work and had a social work organization and so on. But every afternoon we used to have Bengali food at home, and every night there was anything other than Bengali food. So she used to, in the evenings after, and now when I think now that we are all working, if you tell me every evening, because she did it out of choice, we had two, like all good Bengali homes, there were like two cooks and all, but she would cook the dinner and teach the cooks and all. And so we'd have Malaysian food one day, we'd have Iranian food one day, and really good food. So I'm used to seeing someone experiment with food. So I think that's the reason why I have a love for food. So, like, and from a young age, like, she'd make me taste the food and she'd say, is it tasting nice? And, like, you start identifying ingredients and all that.
Correct.
So that has been part of the way I've been brought up. And then when I was 30, I set up Brown Sahib, and I set it up. I took a loan from the bank. I set it up by myself. There, I didn't have another partner or anything, and I set it up in Delhi in Saket, as they say. In Saket, I set it up, which might not have been a good idea because rents were so high. Now, when I think I was 30, at that point, I thought I was very smart and all. And that Brown Sahib was actually my sort of tribute to Calcutta cuisine. So it was called Brown Sahib as a dig at Bengalis because we are like little sahibs, we think we are. So a lot of people think that I'm actually saying it in a very earnest way, but no, I'm being sarcastic and making fun of the fact that if you like sahibs, if you like a coconut, but if you break us open, we are brown outside and white inside, or we at least hope so. But the food was all Calcutta food. So the entire menu was Bengali and Anglo-Indian food, what we call. So that's why Brown Sahib happened. And I ran it for around 4 years. And then I used to work in a PR agency. I have a journalism and PR background. So I left my very stable, successful PR job and I did this. And then after that, I got back again into PR and journalism. And but I also run a catering outfit called Food for Thought, which has the same cuisine basically.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so that carries on. So that's where my interest for food and, also I think some of these recipes and all, if you don't, they're made at home. So if you don't start selling them or popularizing them, they will die out because most people don't have the time to cook itself, right?
Correct.
So I thankfully had a lot of these recipes from my grandmom and from my family, even my extended family. We have this, which you can make out from some of our sizes. We are a little potty. So we have the Bengali roundedness is there.
That's a new term, Bengali roundness.
So I got these recipes from the family, and also that was so even my catering thing has a lot of recipes which you won't find these in restaurants.
Okay.
So that's the thing. That's the history of my food connection.
And are these one of the times I was doing research on food and I went out, it was basically on breads, and I was writing for Mint and I went out to a bunch of the places and I met these bread makers.
Okay.
Interestingly, all the bread makers that I made, Afghan.
Bengali?
No, not Bengali. That's
Thank
okay.
God.
All the bread makers in all the bread maker shops, right? So be it in Purani Delhi, Mehroli, Lajpat for Afghans, Malve Nagar, Khirki Extension, etc., etc. All the places had the owners from Delhi or somewhere, but all the bhatiyar or the bread makers were from Bihar.
Because they're the most hardworking, no?
Correct. But so in your case, do you have the Bihar people cooking or the Bengal people
I
cooking?
had the Bengalis, which is another headache because Bengalis, men especially, are the laziest people in the world. And all Bengalis, including women, think they know best. So you can say, see, this is the recipe. But very often I'd get a dish where I'd say, but this is not the recipe which I showed you. And he'd say, no, but I think it tastes better like this. And you're like, no, this is not, like, I don't want to kill your creativity, but I'm saying that I'm serving a certain kind of crab, say, a stuffed crab. You can't stuff it differently, like, because day before someone's come and ordered that crab, right? It can't be 2 days. So there were lots of learnings from this restaurant. One is dealing with the North Indian landlord, mall manager and all, because I was a single woman.
Okay.
So, and you'll shamelessly, cops will come and ask you for bribes. It's almost institutionalized. Ma'am, if you have 40-seat cover, this is the bribe you have to pay. So I would not pay. Then after 4 months, they'd come and say, ma'am, आप दे ही दीजिए, seal तो करना पड़ेगा, आप दे दो अब. So then my manager would say, ma'am, you have to, like, you can't stop us from, because they come and seal you on the 24th of December. They'll take your music system or something, some shit like this will happen. So one was that, and the other was dealing with these Bengali staff who are all male, right? Because it's very rarely that finally, towards the end, I got a woman who was the main chef. But she was Bengali trained and all that. But dealing with Bengali staff is a totally different. Also, everyone loves to sleep in the afternoon in
That is, I
Bengal.
was about to come to that
Yeah.
point as well, because everybody sleeps on
Yeah,
nice. They have to
from
enjoy
2
their
to
afternoon.
4:30 they'll be sleeping. So if you come for lunch, then they are not in a good mood.
Correct. Few things you cannot change,
Yeah,
irrespective
exactly.
wherever you are. Awesome. So now coming into other things that you have written in your book as well, but before that,
Hmm.
is how important is to talk about or
Hmm.
write history of food?
I
Is it
think
something important?
I think it's very important to write about, as Akshay Kumar has told us, history is very important,
Correct. Very important.
right? He had said this. Now, once
Correct.
Akshay Kumar says so, then that's what life is
We
all
have
about,
to
right?
agree on
So,
that. Simple.
taking from what Akshay Kumar has said,
Yeah.
I think history is very important to document because the way the world is nowadays, that whole thing of even referring to books, of everything's just fast paced and you're online, and no one's really bothered about the roots or antecedents of things, and everyone has their own interpretation. So, unless you document what is actually factual, document and it is going to disappear, and the person who writes the history is the person who basically the person who rules writes the history. We don't want that to happen, right? So,
Correct. Correct.
and I also think with food, like I was telling you before we started recording, with sweets it's very odd that I did not find, and it's not that I did not look hard enough, that's why I did not find it, but there is no one documented history of, and given a country like India which has so many types of sweets, that there's, and so many historians and culinary historians, there is no one documented history of food.
Correct.
So you'll have a biryani, say, you'll have a documented history, maybe a one dish you'll have, but even for that, for Indian sweets, I didn't find that. So not that this is a definitive history of it, but it's as much as I could compile and from conversations I've had with people as well and all, and put down some sort of reference point, because some of the stories are very interesting. You
Correct.
know how some things come about.
Huh,
So
huh.
that's I think it's very important to have history documented and written down
And talked about as well.
and talked about, right?
But
Because
how would you break it down for people? Like your book, the one thing that I liked, and I was telling somebody 3 4 days back as well, saying it's the style of writing is something which I sort of relate with, because it's simple. It's not really fancy jargony jibber jabber.
yeah.
So how do you talk about history of food in general with people?
No, so I think I'm just one of those people. It's the same. See, I talk about history of food. Someone else who reads a certain kind of literature or a certain kind of is interested in a certain kind of automobile, say, would have done the research, and over time you've just garnered information. And I think it's more my writing style is the way I talk. It's conversational.
Correct.
It's not very preachy and like pedantic, that kind of like one lecture is being given, because
Yeah.
even I'd fall asleep doing that. But I think so that's like, if you can keep a conversation going with people about, and you will really find the most odd people are interested in finding out, like, oh, is this ingredient used, why is this ingredient used? So when you're saying why is it important to talk about the history of food also, you know, it will be that one ingredient which is not unique to India. That how has saffron suddenly become, or how did dried nuts suddenly become so popular in a place like even Bengal, which doesn't use dried nuts and dried fruits and dried nuts. So as you look at these little tidbits of information, there's always a story behind it which will come out.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, and I think that's important. Stories
Yeah.
are important. And in the very beginning of the book itself, you mentioned that I mean, this is your line, food is way of life, right? But why? And what if it is not?
No, but I think that's for each person, it depends. Food is a
Yeah.
way of life for me. Like, to me, cooking and feeding friends and people and calling people home and having them sit down at my dining table is very important. I think it's the nicest way of showing affection
Sure.
to people, that you are opening up your house to them. I feel food opens up conversations the way many other things don't. It also brings people together. Like if we put a
Sure.
plate of biryani in front of the BJP and we call some Congress people there and some Trinamool people, if it's good biryani, everyone will sit down and eat and have an argument maybe later over it, but they will enjoy that food. Like food just brings, I think, listen, if any of our political parties get into something as simple as should we be eating biryani if we are so anti Islam, anti communities, Bangladeshis are horrible. We are going to send that 75% of me is Bengal also. So I should also be like
You will be
half
gone.
there. Then stop eating sweets from Bengal.
Yeah.
Let's see any going by the size of our politicians, someone is eating a lot of sweets for sure.
I think most
Right?
of us are.
Yeah, so I just feel that food just breaks down barriers. You can
It,
use it to build barriers, but when you get down to brass tacks, it does break down barriers.
no, that's interesting because um, for me, I think it does both. It sort of breaks down the barrier, but also for everybody. It's like ये तुम्हारा खाना, ये मेरा खाना
Yeah,
best है. We often look like mostly the North Indians. We would look down upon the South Indian food. South would look down
yeah,
upon the North. We all South and North collectively will look down upon the Northeastern cuisine,
yeah,
right? So it's really interesting how, but also we would like to go and eat the food. At least somebody like me,
yeah.
who really experiment all the way कि नहीं देखा जाए क्या है क्या नहीं है. So I don't know. I mean that's exactly what I said. That is it a food like way of life for you, or should it be in general?
No, so a friend of mine says this. He said, "You live to eat."
Huh.
I don't do that. Like if there's good food, it's fine, but it's not like from meal to meal. So I do think meal to meal. Like now I've had this for lunch. So for dinner, what will I have? So I've had this problem since I was a child. My parents used to say your eyes, and I was a really skinny child because we always used to be out, right, playing sports and all that. But we'd eat
Correct.
quite a bit. But metabolism was very good at that point. But my parents used to say your eyes are bigger than your stomach, which is a problem. So it's for me, food is a way of life. I do think that food can bring people together. That is something I strongly believe. But
Yeah.
I don't think food has to be a way of life for everyone.
Sure, I mean to each and his
Yeah,
own.
yeah.
Jaisi merzi.
But don't tell me what to eat. My point is that you
Yeah.
eat what you want, I'll eat what I want. And as long as I'm not forcing you to eat meat, don't make me eat paneer. This really upsets me when people make me eat paneer. Like really,
True.
no one should eat paneer according to me.
I remember I was working with one of the restaurants in GK,
Huh.
and all veg restaurant, right? And so we were working on the menu, and I said, you know what? Because they wanted to, hey, let's add paneer. I said, paneer, I will think about when there's nothing else left on the menu.
That's
Or
all.
like, so here's the thing: I am a meat lover. I eat meat, right? Uh, but if you look at the meat segment, in general, you have got chicken, mutton,
Fish.
fish, the most uncontroversial, non-controversial, whatever word you use.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
yeah. That's what I was going to say. There are others, but you're not naming the.
हाँ but just किसी को तकलीफ नहीं इन चीज़ों से. But when it comes to vegetables, there are like plethora of options, right?
Yeah.
But घूम फिर के हमने सर्व करना है पनीर.
This is a Delhi thing, though, I've noticed. Everything paneer order some other vegetable. Yeah.
But there's nothing else in the restaurant as well.
There is nothing. That's the only problem. So,
You have paneer, you have
yeah.
paneer.
So food is a way of life, but paneer should never be a way of life.
Paneer is not a way of life.
I think I should make this my Twitter handle now. Paneer is not a way of life.
Way of life, correct.
Yeah.
Not a way of life, say that. So you also, as you just mentioned, you also work with Hyatt. When you work with them, do you get to eat Hyatt's free food as well?
I
Very
just
personal.
keep working. There are no free lunches in this world.
But they're also paying you, so you can go and buy
Yeah.
that food. But
That's what. The point is go and buy the food if you want to eat it. Huh? So, sadly, no free lunches in this world.
So people who are interested in working with the hotels and restaurants,
Yeah, if you all
remember
think you all are going to get free meals, you all are not getting free meals.
खुद
For
का
sure.
घर से खुद का चावल दाल लेके जाना पड़ेगा. ऐसा कोई ऑप्शन नहीं है.
हाँ.
कुछ तो पानी तो मिलता हो कम से कम.
Honey, if I go to the hotel, na, I'm in the office.
अच्छा, तब तो वही बॉटल वाला मिलता है.
So I can take my bottled water to this thing. to Hyatts, any of their hotels.
सबकी ज़िंदगी ख़राब है ऐसे
Ah.
ही. So now coming to the book part, Sweet Kitchen.
Yeah.
We start with what is your relationship with sugar? Like,
So I don't eat too many Indian sweets.
correct.
I can pick and choose the ones, like, because there are such few. Because I find a lot of Indian sweets too sweet. Like, I find it too sugary and sweet. So I don't. So forget Indian sweets. I won't. There's a very well-known Middle Eastern sweet called baklava, which is, it's like, what would you say, puff pastry layers, and it has dried fruit and it has sugar syrup, which people love. I had a bite once. I thought I would just pass out. It was so sweet, absolutely, because it's soaked. Every layer is soaked in sugar syrup. So I don't like very sugary sweets, but I love, like, if you give me a good dessert, a well-made dessert, I will try it.
Yeah.
And I love dessert. I love baking. So I bake a lot of stuff like cakes and pastries and pies. I make a lovely bhapa doi, of course. And I made all the sweets, the recipes. So the reason why there are fewer recipes in this book is, one, it was not meant to be a recipe book. But I also wanted to put recipes of dishes which I find it easy to make at home, because Indian sweets are not that easy to make, as easy as like cakes and all.
That is true.
And also I feel you get Indian sweets for at such a cheap price, really good Indian sweets at the Meethai shop. You'd have to be an idiot to spend 1 hour making it, no?
Correct.
Go and buy your laddus over there. It's like in Cal.
True.
People don't make shandesh at home. You just go and you buy, and you get such a wide range of really good shandesh for like 5 rupees, 2 rupees.
Correct.
So but I'm not a big fan of Indian sweets, or, like I'm saying, these Middle Eastern sweets, which are very, like, they have sugar syrup, they have rose water. I find it a little overpowering, the flavors. But the interesting part I find with Indian sweets is that you'll have like some oddities, right? You'll only have chana, what we call cottage cheese in Bengal, which is made at home.
Correct.
Our sweets use chana. Chana is not used anywhere else in India. So all, whether it's your rasgulla or whether it's this thing sandesh, all of it is made with chana. Then some places will use coconut, some places won't, because it's not a local ingredient for some parts of the country. So, that part I find very interesting. And whenever I go somewhere, I will taste the sweet. I might not have the whole thing though.
I have only one theory for I love Bengali sweets and I love sweets. Also, the word that you used, which is too overtly sweet. There's a friend of mine, he uses this word, but I copy his word, which is called Zehreela Meetha.
It's
which
really
is too sweet,
Yeah.
which is baklava is little too, and I don't like baklava for the
Yeah,
exact
so
reason.
like the first time I went to Dubai, I was like, must try the baklava there. And I was like, God, I almost died at the airport, I think, when I put it. And you don't want to be rude
Yeah.
also, now, when you're biting into this thing, but it's so sweet. But the odd thing is, like, I like sweet, like, I can't have coffee or tea without either sweetener or with sugar, without sugar. I like, if I have a drink also, I need it to be a sweet drink. So I like things sweet, but I don't know, when it comes to some sweet preparations, I find it a little overpowering, that entire feeling that you get when you bite into it.
So in general, you've got a love relationship with sweet sugar,
Yeah.
but not too much. Like
Yeah.
प्यार की
It's
इंतहा
like,
नहीं है.
it's everything is in moderation.
Correct, that's something. इंतहा नहीं है. प्यार मोहब्बत है, ज़्यादा नहीं. ज़्यादा ही बिल्कुल
हाँ.
से ज़्यादा गुलू
There
गुलू नहीं
must
है.
be, like Khalil Gibran said, there must be space in our togetherness.
Exactly, that's exactly the
I
point.
believe that.
With Bengali mithai, I love Bengali mithai. I was saying, but there's only one definition for the whole of Bengali mithais apart from Shandesh, which is chana. Chana के ऊपर cream, there's something else. Chana के नीचे cream, it is called something else. Chana के बीच में cream, it is called something else.
We fry the chana also
Fry
sometimes.
chana, put cream, it is called something
Yeah.
else. So
There
it's
are many
essentially
versions.
many versions of chana cream, and for some odd
We
reason.
also make savory food with chana. So
That
we'll
is-
make like chana ka sabzi also.
Oh, I
So
know.
like paneer, but it's more crumbly, basically.
Correct.
That's the only thing. So
That
we
I didn't know.
use a lot of chana.
बिल्कुल छान छान के बैठे हैं। खैर इतनी मिठाई की बातें कर ली है मैंने। मुझे लग गई है थोड़ी भूख, तो मैं जा रहा हूँ ब्रेक लेने, और थोड़ा मैं मिठाइयों को ऑर्डर कर देता हूँ, बिकॉज तुम लोगों ने तो ऑर्डर किया नहीं है। ब्रेक के बाद मिलते हैं, वापस से मिठाई पे आते हैं।
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. This week on Cock and Bull, Cyrus joins us from Spain. Shreyas Nivedita, Antariksh and Abbas discuss PM Modi's blog post. Introducing our new Marathi show, Don Baika Gappa Aika. In the first episode, Aparna Dixit and Avanti Damle discuss the fast-paced life of Gen Z and how tiring it is to be the cool parent. On Pesa Vesa, Anupam meets Ashish Kumasta, Managing Director and CEO, Julius Baer, India. They discuss key wealth management trends. The Simplified Gang talks to Samir Mohan, product marketer at Fisdom, about all things investments. On All Things Policy, the Takshashila folk discuss the role inequality and economic prospects play in political violence. And on the Life Manifesto, Zarina celebrates the Effective Communications Month of June. Just a reminder to everybody, the IVM merchandise is now available. You can go to the IVM Podcast website and click on the shop tab. Check out our first collection of t-shirts. Also, do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I'd like to remind you all that it is really helpful for us when you do recommend this show or any of our other shows to a friend. Word of mouth is great for us, and it's really a great way for us to grow our audience and have more people for you to discuss your podcast consumptions with. Also, don't forget to rate us on any platform you're listening on, and you can also check us out on YouTube at ivmpodcast.com/YouTube. We have a list of the YouTube channels we are on. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Capgemini, Intel vPro, and Intel Future Banana Wonderful. Thank you so much for making this possible.
आ गए भाई ब्रेक से। आज पता है इतनी शांति है ना इस कॉन्वर्सेशन में, इस पॉडकास्ट में। बीच में कोई ऐसे अर्चित कहीं कुछ नहीं है, बस दो लोग आपस में गप्पे मार रहे हैं और मीठी मीठी बातें कर रहे हैं। ओहो क्या मज़ा आ रहा है। ऐसे ही कर लेते हैं पॉडकास्ट पे, बता रहा हूँ। जरूरत ही नहीं है अर्चित की, जाए तेल लेने। नहीं, तेल लेने नहीं गया वो, कुछ और काम
मिठाई
कर रहा है।
लेने
हाँ क्या गया?
मिठाई लेने गया है।
मिठाई लेने गया, करेक्ट, मिठाई लेने गया। मिठाई लेके आएगा अगले हफ्ते पे, बात करते हैं। खैर, सो राजश्री, वेलकम बैक हमारे इस पे। फ्रॉम फूड थोड़ा सा साइड निकलते हैं। मेरा एक बचपन का सपना है जो जवानी में बना है। वो सपना ये है कि लाइक देयर आर टू स्पेसेस, राइट, एंड वी इन अ वे पुट पीपल इन बॉक्सेस। क्या ये तुम तो खाने पे लिखते हो, या फिर खाने पे काम करते हो तुम वही करो, या फिर तुम पॉलिटिक्स से बात करते हो तुम वही करो, या फिर तुम हथौड़ा चलाते हो तुम हथौड़ा चलाओ। तो देयर इज ओनली वन बॉक्स। बट लुकिंग एट योर करियर, लुकिंग एट द वे you have worked in the past, it does multiple things, right? Under maybe the same ambit,
Yeah.
but you do multiple things, including what I was saying about working in sort of politics, not working in politics, writing in politics and food both, right? One name I could think of is V. Sangvi, who switches really easily, and nobody really questions him. Nobody says, "Hey, Veer, तुमने यार खाना पे ध्यान दो."
Yeah.
When he writes about food, politics, he's like, "अरे खाने पे." Nobody says. So that's a very smooth thing, and that
Yeah.
for people like me, or as well as users interested, I am not able to do it. But how do people like you switch between these two without getting judgments?
So I get sometimes from the right wingers when they are pissed off with me, then they'll say, "Oh, but she writes on, she makes," no, they don't say makes food, they aren't that regressive, but near enough they get to that. She though writes on food, and she like, why are we listening to her? So my point is, you don't need to listen. Who has told you to listen to me? Why are you getting so worked up? But as such, I have not faced this criticism ever. Also because my background, as I was saying, I used to be First Post when First Post was founded. I was the columnist from that time on. So I don't write on hardcore politics. I write on political influence on gender, social issues, pop culture.
Correct.
So while I do, and I write slightly funnier pieces, it won't be a very, very serious piece on politics. Like I remember I had written on the Thackeray's once, then about this whole thing about, how certain politicians always have camera crews when they're going to meet their family members. It's a little odd that even we go to meet our family members. However famous I was, I can't imagine me saying, रामू भैया आप वहां से पिक्चर लेना, ठीक से आना चाहिए. So it's a little odd, like why are they doing these things? So I write on things that happen in politics, but I will not write on hardcore politics. So if Rahul Gandhi has given an interview, remember he gave his first interview after really long to one channel, I've forgotten now. And I wrote about the fact that his answers were non-answers, basically. For 1 hour, he spoke and like no one knows what he said in those because he said nothing at all in those. So my background is actually on writing on pop culture, politics, gender issues, and sort of how they all come together. And food came a little after that. So I think that is why, and then even for food, I used to write for Wall Street Journal, right? So while I had the restaurant and all, I did write for Wall Street Journal. So I think because I've written on all these topics for a while, I'm very old also. So that's also there. That I've done this for a while. So maybe that's why people don't question it. And at one point, there was that internet boom which happened with first post came up, Mint had live Mint. So there were a lot of options on what to write on, what not to write on. And also, I just like wearing a lot of hats. So it's a good thing. Make sure I always have a job.
That's also true.
I can't do this. Sir, I can do that also. Like,
सब ये लीजिए, सब मेन्यू कार्ड लीजिए, आपको जो पसंद है आप
आप देखिए ना, आपको क्या पसंद है बता दीजिए.
सब कर दूंगी सर. आप पैसे की बात करो, कितने दोगे?
मतलब रेट्स भी आप देख लीजिए उसके
अच्छा,
साथ.
रेट भी है, ये करने का 500 रुपया, ये करने का 1000 रुपया.
संदेश के लिए 20 रुपया खाली.
I was reading somewhere, actually not reading, so reading बाद में आया था. अभी कुछ दिन पहले I was in Lucknow and I was doing like a book research के लिए गया था मैं. तो एक बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग सी जगह है, हाजी समथिंग हिज नेम इज, ऐसे दुकान का नाम है. ये है आपको नक्काश के पास में. तो दोनों साइड के सेम ही दुकानें हैं, दोनों का नाम है हाजी, है हाजी समथिंग. वहाँ क्या होता है, इंटरेस्टिंग ये है कि आपको 10 रुपये की मिठाई मिलेगी वहाँ पे और 1000 रुपये की मिलेगी. अगर लखनऊ में मुहर्रम का सल हो रहा है, जिसको मुहर्रम की मजलिसें होती हैं या फिर किसी भी तरीके का फातिहा या फिर शाम को गेट टुगेदर है, तो यहाँ से मिठाइयाँ आ जाती हैं. और इंटरेस्टिंग पार्ट ये है कि 10 रुपये की मिलती है, बट वो क्या करते हैं ना कि यू गो टू हिम एंड यू से कि भैया 10 रुपये का ही मिठाई चाहिए. तो अगर लड्डू मिल रहा आपको, लड्डू उसमें से निकाला और दिन वापस बना दिया. तो एग्जैक्टली, तो दैट रिमाइंडेड मी कि in a way it was similar to Calcutta, because Calcutta में you get 5 रुपए का संदेश मिल जाएगा आपको और पूरा डब्बा मिलेगा.
You get 200 rupees संदेश also. It's what you want, no?
Exactly, कि मुझे इतना सही चाहिए, सिंगल सर्विंग चाहिए, तो मुझे डब्बा क्यों लेके आऊँ? Which is great. Like that's what I think. कि अगर if I go to right now to हल्दीराम and say कि hey मुझे ना, तो या तो एक सिंगल पीस देगा या फिर बोलेगा देगा ही नहीं. But here I said 10 रुपए का, तो 10 रुपए में सिंगल पीस भी नहीं आएगा ना, उसका भी आधा आया था. But he gave like.
But he gave it. He didn't say no to you.
No, he didn't. And that's what I like. कि ये जो गुड ओल्ड स्कूल जो दुकानें हैं, एंड दैट्स समथिंग कैलकाटा में भी है ऐसे दुकानें जहाँ पे टेस्टिंग मेन्यू के नाम पे आपको 10 रुपए का सामान मिल जाएगा.
अरे you can go to a puchka wala and say, I want one puchka. He'll give you one puchka. You'll pay for that. He might not encourage it that every day now you'll come and have one puchka from him. But they will not say, no, I'm not going, you have to buy a plate of puchka. So I just want to tell your listeners something, that it's not like I'm being anglicized or not responding in Hindi. My Hindi is terrible. So if I try to respond in Hindi, no one, including me, will understand what I am saying.
Our listeners understand English, I believe.
No, but I just say people should not think I'm being rude or something. Because I'm a very nice person, as you all have guessed by now.
Because she's not rude, she's a nice person.
Yeah.
Certified.
I can answer in Hindi. Shall I try? Ask me a question.
Sure.
Ask it easy. Don't say no. Ask something where I have to explain something.
Like the movie Sholay, तुम्हारा नाम क्या है बसंती? ठीक है.
I hate Sholay, by the way. I think it's a horrible film.
हम उस पे बात में
Sorry.
Such a, so I grew up in a place called Ramgarh, but not the same Ramgarh.
Which Ramgarh? The one in the hills?
No, the one in Jharkhand.
How many Ramgarhs are there in India?
There are many. There are many Rams and there are many Ramgarhs.
But tell me, if you're from Jharkhand, then you understand Bengali also?
I do. My father is fluent in Bengali. He's like fatafat. He is Bengali, मतलब अंदर से Bengali. He meets another Bengali and his Bengali comes out.
Repeatedly. So this is a Bengali thing, and
Correct.
we infiltrated into other communities
Haan.
like this. When Bengalis meet other Bengalis, and it's very bad manners actually, they'll just start speaking to each other in Bengali. There are
Correct.
10 other people who don't know what you're saying. Yeah? They'll
I-
just start.
I
And then they
thought
look at you like, why do you not know Bengali? That's your problem, no?
Exactly.
So it's good to see your father has got
He switches like. तो अभी कुछ दिन पहले I was shooting और because of him or because of Jharkhand I understand Bengali a little bit. So these two ladies were talking in Bengali and I'm like standing and waiting for my cue कि हाँ ठीक है अभी क्या करना अगला. And they start talking Bengali. So like हाँ सब समझ रहा मेरे को. So she's like oh sorry then we'll switch to English.
Yeah.
So they thought that मैं ऐसे funny होके बोल रहा हूँ कि मुझे कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. But actually समझ में आ रहा था मेरे को. मैंने बोला आप continue रहो. जहाँ पे wherever I have issues, I will get back to you कि भाई क्या बोला तुमने बंगाली में? Otherwise तो I know things.
So what is your favorite sweet from Jharkhand? Is there?
झारखंड में कोई झारखंड has a very
That's not. That's what I was just thinking because I was just thinking, shit,
Right?
I have not written about any sweet from
दो तीन
Jharkhand.
है दो तीन जो मेरे एक तो ठेकुआ the
हाँ.
best then there's second is खाजा खाजा is similar to खजला और हाँ I think Bengal also has it
But we call it something else. Goja. We call it.
गाजा yeah correct.
It's that
Same thing.
slightly hard fried, but it's sugary.
Yeah, it's very
Everything is sugary, obviously.
हाँ, it's on top sugar like
हाँ.
nice sugar
Yeah,
coated.
yeah. It's called
Then-
Goja.
हाँ, then you have got murki, so there's chena murki,
हाँ.
which I think is a very Bengal influence, not a
Yeah.
necessarily Jharkhand Bihar thing. Then we have got parval mithai, again very much.
So we
influence
have
from
that
Bengal.
also.
So I think it's an influence from Bengal.
Yeah.
Then what else is there? There's one dish which my mother used to make, which is very similar to Bengal's. I don't remember. This is really tiny. I don't remember the name.
Like laddus.
No, not
Pickle.
laddus. It's dipped in rubbery type का सामान. It's like
Rasmalai.
similar but not that. Something पायसम type का
It's
बनता है.
just called Rasmalai. That's why you think it's different.
No, not raw.
But just saying the bong accent.
Not
Like,
that.
what is it called?
There's tiny बनता
But
है.
it's a small one. I know.
No, it's like a what you make it out of is आटा. तो आटे का पास्ता टाइप बनता है. वो you basically really you take little bit आटा in your middle of your finger and then you just like give it like a shape,
Okay.
like a cylindrical, right? And then you poach in milk, which is Jharkhand thing. But I have had this
Yeah,
in
I'm gonna check this out.
as well. Huh. Very nice. It's really because it's like a one meal in total because you got the milk, you got the mithas, and then you got
Yeah.
the roti. in a way.
Atta is there also, huh?
Exactly. So you got roti, दूध सब मिल गया
Yeah.
हमें. So that's what I used to love. और ये चार पांच तो हैं confirm है. चार पांच तो confirm है. बुंदिया. How can you forget बुंदिया?
Bodhya. So that we have in Bengal. Bodhi it's called. Which is what I thought you were referring to first.
No. So झारखंड में बड़ा interesting है which is called सेव बुनिया. So सेव is your मोटा वाला सेवई जो आता. No, not सेवइयाँ. गट्टे के साथ जो आते हैं पतले पतले.
Okay, हाँ.
बेसन के जो बनते हैं. So that's salty and then you club it with bunia, which is bundia, but they call it bunia. So it's a nice combination. It's like beautiful for your प्रसाद वगैरह में ये मिलता है usually, but otherwise just nice evening snack. मीठा and नमकीन together. Oh, best. That's तो दिल्ली में आईने मार्केट में है जो बिहार का शॉप उसमें मिलता है.
So then I should go and check because I go to INA to do my shopping for my catering and all that.
गुड़गांव से
Yeah, I go once a week, yeah, to do all my shopping.
once a week. Wow, that's frequent.
Not once a day. Then
No,
it
but
is
once a week is also very frequent.
yeah, once a week I go. Yeah.
जिगरा है इतना लंबा.
Dedicated. This weight has not come without work, huh?
That's what I'm saying.
Travel
Very,
to
very,
IIT.
very much dedicated. खैर so dedication reminds me कि how do you think the food, क्योंकि your book has also talked about different kinds of food, it changes, influence of people. You have also talked about the great Mughals in your book, but how do you think that the people, all the rulers, dynasties, influence the way people eat and their eating habits? Should there be an influence as well? Good or bad बात की बात है, but should there be influence?
No, so I think what you see in the influences on more traditional foods that are there in India is that compared to now, what our rulers, our political leaders do is earlier there was no banning of anything. If a ruler liked a certain kind of like if someone like halwa, then halwa, like there were 8 different types of halwa being made in that dynasty at that point. If someone like firni, then there were 5 types of firni being made. But nothing was ever banned, that you weren't like, just because a ruler did not like, I'm sure Akbar and all also did not like certain foods and sweets.
I'm sure.
But no one was told now you can't make that because the ruler does not like it. So I think that is where the influence would be, the positive influence is that because you are at that point a king, or even our politicians who behave like kings and queens, that you have a repertoire, like a kitchen full of chefs at your service. You have unlimited resources. So if you want to develop a certain kind of cuisine, you have the money and the wherewithal to do that. Which maybe, say, if I want to promote Bengali food, there's only so much I can do for it, right? But in today's world, like if Mamata Banerjee wants to promote mangoes, Bengal's mangoes, she will send baskets, which she does. She sends Bengal's mangoes to Modi and all also, who might not want to eat those mangoes, but he's getting a basket from her.
He loves
does
mangoes.
He loves mangoes. As we Akshay Kumar again. I'm so going to get Akshay Kumar's face tattooed over here.
You should peach.
But because he is, the next book will be with the blessings of Akshay Kumar. And he was a cook also.
Exactly.
So many things are dovetailing together. It's too much. No, so I just feel that rulers can have a very positive influence on spreading the good word about whichever cuisine or dish or ingredient catches their fancy.
Okay.
And ideally, you should be like that instead of being the other way where you say, I don't like this, so no one can eat it now.
True.
That is the thing, which I think the influence of, like, use your influence for good, in this at least.
True. This is also the right line for all the Instagram influencers.
Yes, use your influence for good. Influencers. I call them influencers.
Yeah, most of us do, including me.
Yeah.
Back to your book.
Yes.
And this is our last question before we get into our favorite segment, which we like to believe it is our favorite. Which is that, again, your book talks about all the sweet eating and offerings different culture has, Indian culture has. But why do you think India as a nation is obsessed with mithai? I remember a couple of days back, actually not days back, months back, I was talking to Chef Atul Kochar and about mithai only, and he said कि हम तो ना घर भी वहाँ ढूंढते हैं जहाँ बाजू में हलवाई हो. मतलब as Hindustani, now he lives in London, but as Hindustani, घर भी वहाँ ढूंढे या बाजू में हलवाई है. So what is this thing with obsession of mithai?
Also, we serve mithai at everything.
Yes.
At the birth of a child, if something good happens, also mithai is served. At shraddhs, at funerals and all also, they will at the wake. So in Bengali shraddho, which is that on the 11th day, I get this wrong, it might be 13th day, I think it's 11th day, but sweets will be served. So sweet is integral. Food might not be served, other food, but sweets are there for everything, and there's a sweet again for at every price point also, right? So if you're saying like I can only afford the 5 rupee sweet, you will get that also. I don't know, I think it's just we clearly have a very sweet tooth, because some other countries, if you go to, they will at most have 2 sweets which are common to the entire country, but we are also a country of so many people and so many communities. No? So if each community has 1 sweet of their own, we've anyway filled it up with at least 120 sweets. Okay. So I think that's also a flip side of the fact that we are such a largely populated country. Other Americas will have what? They'll have 3 big, maybe you'll have, the American Indians are there. You'll have Americans itself, and you'll have some Latin Americans, say.
And good Jews.
And good Jews are there everywhere. Okay, and Bangladeshis.
In Bangladesh.
Let's not forget.
Of course.
But there'll be one sweet just look at the number of communities we have now. So if each community has one special sweet they make,
Correct.
you're done for.
You have enough.
And we have to taste the other communities just so that we can tell them that no, our sweet is better than your sweet.
That is always true.
That is also, there are many things driving this love for sweets in India.
Yeah, so we are a sweet nation in general. I
Yes.
would like to believe that.
I hope so.
I hope so.
Yeah.
No, so on Bengali cuisine, there's a friend of ours called Bilal.
Okay.
He's from Karachi. He's a doctor by profession, but otherwise he's an influencer as well.
Is that influencer also?
But I don't know how it works. I have asked him, but how does it work? Because I have only seen him doing influencer stuff. I have never seen him doing doctor thing. He said, "Kiya." He said, "अच्छा तो अगर डॉक्टर है तो मतलब स्टेथोस्कोप लेके बैठा रहेगा आदमी." So he was telling us all about the mithai is on that side of the border, and he also talks about Bengali mithaiyan, which is popular there as well because of course the pre-partition and then pre-liberation the mithaiyan which still there and cooked by made by all the Bengalis there. Handful है लेकिन है. Awesome. Okay, तो आखिरी सेगमेंट है भाई, बहुत कंट्रोवर्शियल होता है. बहुत, आज तक हमें इस चीज़ के लिए कभी धमकी नहीं मिली है, लेकिन हाँ कंट्रोवर्शियल है. किसी ने हमें बैन नहीं किया लेकिन है. तो कंट्रोवर्शियल है, सॉरी नॉट कंट्रोवर्शियल. We get into our favorite, either your favorite, not our favorite. Our क्या है? Your favorite mithai would be, if you have to pick one mithai.
Indian sweet it has to be. Indian sweet, right?
यहाँ पे नहीं, यहाँ पे कुछ भी कर सकते हो. Any one मिठाई जो जिंदगी भर खानी है.
Irrespective. जिंदगी में खानी है.
Irrespective. यहाँ पे इंडियन विदेशी की बात नहीं कर रहे.
Then it would have to be some sort of my mouth is watering. Some sort of French dessert, I think, like a creme choux, which is like a puff.
Yes.
Which is filled with that sweet cream or a chocolate cream, like a creme choux or something.
Correct.
Or a really nice ribbed chocolate cake. A really nice, well made.
एक ही अलाउड है भाई, दो तो क्या?
अच्छा, rich chocolate cake.
Rich chocolate, rich ना अमीर चाहिए बिल्कुल. गरीब वाले चलेगा.
Always.
Very Anglo. Very Anglo.
Sorry.
For people who got confused with why Rajyasree loves shoe, it is not SHOE shoe. जूतों की बात नहीं हो रही थी.
CHOUX shoe.
That one, the fancy वाला है. अंग्रेज, क्योंकि everyone white is अंग्रेज for us. तो अंग्रेजों ने बोला जूते तो नहीं खाएंगे तो उसका नाम चेंज करो, तो शू कर दिया. तो ये बात हुई थी. खैर, अब हम आते हैं बंगाली डिशेस पर. One absolute overrated Bengali dish. Mithai, not dish, mithai.
So many, I think.
So many.
I'm just saying, I don't say ras malai, what people outside Bengal say, but chanar payesh. It's called chanar payesh.
Chanar payesh, correct. वो तो छोटू वाला होता है ना, जो छोटू वाला called.
But it's with the, like, it's not, I don't like the
same stuff. Oh. गए लोग. और underrated?
Underrated, I think bhapa doi.
Oh, it's underrated.
Because people don't really, unless you're in someone's house, bhapa doi isn't really made in restaurants that much.
Correct.
Oh, wait. I'll tell you, underrated is bode. You know that what you get in bundi, it's called, I think, bode. Because very few people would buy that. They'll buy shandesh, they'll buy something else, but it's really quite nice.
So bodis are the bada wala?
No, the chota wala. And they are in different colors, red, yellow and all. And you just, that's what you don't have it with anything else. You can buy like bode. Go to the market and ask for bode.
Awesome. अभी जाएंगे, मतलब अगले हफ्ते अभी. Perfect. Awesome. And one last thing. If people have to book your book or pick up your book, book your book. What is one? We all have one favorite chapter. Okay. I know this fact. We all. So which one is your favorite, or for it could be because of the story or it could be because of the recipe?
Okay, let me look at it. Let me
हाँ हाँ revisit
reacquaint myself with all the.
हाँ
I'll tell you the ones with the one which I had the most fun writing would be okay, the one where I learned the most, let's put it, was halwa.
oh
Yeah, halwa, the Arab who strayed onto the Indian faith, because the influences on halwa are so marked
yeah
and so many, and the different kinds of halwa. Like even when I was reading up on it, the kinds of halwa you get in India, outside, and that you get so many types of halwa outside India, I just found it fascinating. Absolutely,
which one would be your favorite halwa
I don't eat halwa, but I did have the kala gajar ka halwa,
oh
which
nice
I thought was really nice because it's not that sweet.
yes it's not,
And you get it
unless
in Lucknow.
yes unless you make it sweet तो sweet हो जाएगा
Yeah,
लेकिन
but it wasn't. The one I had wasn't that as rich as like gajar ka halwa can be very rich. More than sweet, it can be quite rich, right?
correct
So
correct
that's the,
हाँ
yeah,
that's my favorite halwa well in winter that's my favorite halwa as well
yeah,
बेशर्मों की तरह plug in कर देता हूँ for people who would
yes.
like to have more knowledge about हलवा हमने हलवा पे पॉडकास्ट किया शो नोट पे लिंक डाल देंगे या फिर आप स्क्रॉल अप कर लेना अपने हिसाब से हलवा मिल जाएगा खैर हाँ लखनऊ का गाजर हलवा काला गाजर हलवा बहुत ही पॉपुलर है या आई लव इट
And it's very interesting. The taste is interesting. It's not like the usual that you get. That's the
हाँ
nice thing.
डू यू ऑल्सो नो अबाउट द सफ़ेद गाजर हलवा
Yes. And it's mentioned in the book also.
perfect
Yeah.
that's what the trick part
Yeah.
somebody asked me when you said I don't eat halwa right someone asked me that which chapter is your favorite from your book and I said pan ka and they said oh so which pan do you like I said I don't like pan
As I said, just because I'm writing a book on Greek history, I don't have to be Greek. So,
exactly I'm like देखो पान ना कंसेप्ट अच्छा है
हाँ.
इट्स अ वेरी नाइस गंगा जमुनी तहजीब का
Yeah.
लेकिन मेरे को पान पसंद नहीं है इफ
Right.
यू रीड दैट चैप्टर यू विल नो मुझे पान पसंद नहीं मैंने लिख दिया क्लियरली वहां पर I
So
don't like
in
pan.
my introduction, I'm very honest about it. That
हाँ.
people and my friends have made a lot of fun of me because they said, "Is it like a fiction book you're writing? Because you don't eat sweet." I said, "No, it's not about my love for sweets. Then it would be fiction. It's about sweets of India." So
It's
that's the thing.
based on real life incidents.
Yes.
Perfect. Nice, Ashley. This was really awesome.
Thank
Such
you.
beautiful conversation. मतलब हम कंटिन्यू कर सकते हैं बातें अब हम पार्ट 2 लाएंगे इसका
Yes.
पार्ट 2 में हम और लंबे लंबे गप्पे मारेंगे और भर भर गप्पे मारेंगे बुक के बारे में या फिर फूड के बारे में इन जनरल स्पेशली ऑन बंगाली क्यूजिन आई थिंक देयर इज सो मच
Yeah,
टॉक
we
अबाउट
can do
बंगाली
one.
क्यूजिन
Yeah. We
Yeah.
can do one on Calcutta cuisine. Will be.
Calcutta cuisine, right?
Yeah.
There's a book which has come out as well called. I'm looking behind for people who are watching us on YouTube. The book is called A Taste of Time: Food History of Calcutta. Oof.
By whom?
By Mohana Kanjilal.
Oh, I'll pick it up and see.
इतनी मोटी बुक है बिल्कुल डंबल के काम आएगी बट ऑन बंगाली क्यूजीन सो नेक्स्ट अप वी विल हैव बंगाली क्यूजीन में वापस से हम राजश्री को लेके आएंगे
Shall I plug my podcast also on your
यस
podcast?
प्लीज
So you all should also listen to the Awful and Awesome Entertainment Wrap, which I co-host with Abhinandan on Newslaundry. There'll be only digs at food and Abhinandan saying how he made the best food show in the world. But you will get deep insights into pop culture from me. So to balance it out.
एंड वी विल पुट द शो नोट अगेन लिंक जो है शो नोट में आ जाएगा यू शुड इन जनरल जैसे न्यूज लॉन्ड्री को जाकर सुन लेना चाहिए देख लेना चाहिए उनकी एक फेवरेट लाइन भी
Support independent media.
एक बहुत ही पॉपुलर लाइन भी है पे टू कीप न्यूज फ्री तो आप ये भी
Yes.
कर सकते हैं हो गया भाई मैंने न्यूज लॉन्ड्री को प्रमोट कर दिया
They aren't giving me anything for doing any of this, so it's fine.
थिंग इज मैंने कर लिया मैंने सब्सक्रिप्शन भी ले रखा है
Oh, yeah, it's going to rain in Gurgaon. I'm very excited. There's been no rain over here. Or something dark has just gone over my house because it just suddenly became very dark.
आप जान ही क्यों नहीं ले रहे हैं
Noida पे नहीं हो रहा है.
कुछ नहीं होता नोएडा पे इतनी सारी मिठाइयों की बातें कर ली अब आप बोल रहे हो बारिश होने वाला है जान ही निकाल लो फिर तो क्या ही करना है क्या करेंगे जिंदा रह के अब हम
But thank you
Awesome.
so much for having me on.
नान
And
करी
thank you for
पॉडकास्ट
reading the book.
थैंक यू फॉर सेंडिंग द बुक. आई एम मतलब मैं पढ़ते पढ़ते मुझे भूख लग गई थी, मतलब बात करते करते भूख लग गई है. तो आई एम गोइंग टू गो रियली एंड ऑर्डर सम मिठाई, कुछ तो मीठा ऑर्डर करूँगा. एंड एवरीबडी एल्स, दुकान करते हैं बंद.